and welcome back to another Folky Folk with FARA, and myself and Harv have come through to Stromness, and we are in front of the one and only Stromness Hotel, which is of course the base for the Orkney Folk Festival and a crime scene pretty much for all the debauchery that goes on during the weekend.
We're here today in Stromness to talk to a local man called Tom Muir, and Tom is a local historian, and he's also been instrumental in keeping the kind of Orkney folklore tradition alive, really. Yep. And he's a lovely, lovely gentleman. So come with us and meet Mr. Tom Muir. So we're here now with Tom. Thank you very much for having us, Tom.
No bother.
I know you didn't have much of a choice in the matter.
No, not
No, we really didn't. It was a phone call yesterday, so we're coming tomorrow.
That's a bit higher. So how did you get into storytelling?
Well, a while ago, working at the museum, as I still do, I was asked to do an exhibition about a guy called Walter Trell Dennison, who was a collector of stories in the 19th century in Sandy. So I did an exhibition and we did a book as well. And then I was asked by Aberdeen University to go around and give lectures in the evenings about it. And so I thought it'd be more fun to tell a story and, you know, and brief description story, which would be more entertaining, I thought. And then folks started asking me to go back and do stuff. And so it happened. I mean, it was never a decision.
You're very well known throughout the islands for your storytelling, and you now do the Orkney Storytelling Festival.
Yeah, yep. I've got a festival that's been on the go consecutively since 2010. And of course last year we had to do it online for obvious reasons. But it was a learning curve, and also it reached a far wider audience, of course.
That's
and
the pro, isn't it?
yeah,
That's the kind of
folk around the world are saying, I hope you're going to do that again. So we will film things and put it online.
So with the storytelling, obviously a lot of it's to do with mythology within Orkney. So we've got selkies, trowies, mermaids, I mean, you name it, it's all in these books. And if you guys at home actually want to be able to read some of these stories yourself, Tom has actually put pen to paper and he's got a few books that you can have. This one here is actually my favourite. I've had it since I was a pretty girl, and it's The Mermaid Bride, and it's got some fantastic pictures in it too, but you'll no be looking at them because normally I buy a book for the pictures, but the stories in this is just brilliant as well. So it's The Mermaid Bride and also Orkney Folk Tales, and you can get them online at the Arcadian or at the Stromness bookshop. But you've got a website as well.
We do indeed, orkneyology.com.
Wonderful.
Which is run by me wife Rhonda and myself. We're launching out now as well to Orkneyology Press, and we will start publishing books as well. Not only books written by Rhonda and myself, but other people as well. And so there's books for Orkney, but also further afield as well. We've got about 10 authors lined up so far, so there'll be a real mixture of everything.
Excellent.
From stories to natural history and autobiographies and folk tales.
Oh, fantastic. And so is this launched already, Tom?
It's on the slip,
So
just
oh,
ready to get
waiting to
the
go.
bits knocked out and a bottle of whiskey out with a bow.
That'll be
I
it.
might drink that myself. But
Speaking of whiskey now, guys, you really need to go and pour yourselves one, or whatever you fancy to have a drink with, because we are in for a treat. Tom is going to tell us a local Orkney story now. So put your feet up, pour yourselves a dram, and enjoy the wonderful stories which we're going to get for Tom. Thank you so much for having us. We really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. Cheers.
my pleasure. There was once an old man who was a fiddle player. I mean, he was no Jeana Leslie and no Kristan Hervey, but I mean, he was quite good. And he used to play around the ale houses, and folk always bought him a drink because he said that he was in league with the Fairies. And he got some of his tunes for the fairy folk. So folk were scared of him because he didn't want to offend a friend of the Fairies, because that was asking for trouble. But the one night he was in the alehouse and he's drinking away and he's playing tunes, And there's an old fella there sitting in the corner, and he's a big, huge guy. And he's sort of like looking at him and hawking and drinking his beer. And he said, I hear you're supposed to be in league with the fairies. Oh, yes, I am, he says. I play for the mother. I've played at 3 fairy weddings, he said. Is that right? Funny, I've never seen one. Oh, you don't want to either, he says. No, it's only folk with a really strong nerve that can stand being with the fairy folk. No, the man was not very impressed with that, because he was a blacksmith. He was huge, he was a man mountain. And he said, I would like to see the fairies. Oh, that would be easily done, he said. Tell you what, I'm going the morn's night, when the moon is full, out to the knowes of Trotty and Harry to play the fiddle. And if you want to come around then, you'll see plenty of fairies, but I would not advise it. Oh, well, we'll do that, he said. So they arranged to meet the following night, and the blacksmith turned up, and the old man was there, and he was already playing the fiddle. Well, he played chigs, he played reels, he played tunes that would have made a stool stamp its feet. You know, he played beautifully, but not a sign of a fairy. He played for an hour and nothing happened. And the blacksmith was saying, well, so much for your fairies then. And the old man goes, oh, of course, I forgot. They're all going to Maeshowe the night for a fairy christening. So that's where, we'll go to Maeshowe too, said the blacksmith. Oh, I can't go, said the old man. No, I'm too frail. I couldn't walk all that distance. I'll carry you on me back, said the blacksmith. And he picked him up and he stuck the man on his back. Now, the man was getting a bit worried, because if it kind of caught out that maybe he wasn't in league with the fairies, then maybe that supply of beer might, run dry. But he kept the front up. The blacksmith carried him all the way to Maeshowe, and he took him right up to the top of the mound, and he dumped him down, and the man started to play the fiddle, and he played chigs, and he played reels, and he played his heart out, and there was still no sign of a fairy. No, he'd played again for another hour, and it was, it was starting to get a bit light by this time. Oh, of course, he said. What am I thinking? The fairies, it wasn't tonight that they were going to Maeshowe. They were going to Orford, to a wedding over there. That's where they'll be. And it's almost daylight, so we can't set off now, it's too late. So you'll have to take me back home. So the blacksmith carried him back home and set him down. And the old man, well, he was happy, because as far as everybody else was concerned, he was still in league with the fairies. And that supply of beer, well, it kept flowing.